Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aspie Bridge. Oh, I have such an amazing way for you to really come into your own personal space with a renewed sense of, and I can tell you that my guest today is very special. I just met her fairly recently, but we already seem to kick it off pretty well. So I hope you have the same effect. But before we go there, as you know, with all the awesome Aspies out in the world, late diagnosed autistic individuals, as well as level 2 and level 3, but mostly I work with the late diagnosed because we are the ones who never received the resources. We flew under the radar, and so people attributed all of our challenges to other things. And now that we know, and I found out at the age of 51 that I was on the spectrum, I knew I was different, but I'm on it. But I have so many friends out on the YouTube space tell you what the traits of autism are, such as Paul Micallef and Ryan Kelly in Australia. I have Samantha Stein in the Netherlands, Sarah Hendricks in the UK, Temple Grandin here in the US, as well as so many others who will tell you what the traits of autism are. The mission of the Aspie Bridge is, as you know, I have a guest every week who brings with him a zone of expertise. And what I do is I connect you, the listener, with one of these wonderful guests, such as Jessica Walters, everyone who came before her, everyone who will come after her. I connect you with one of them. And what they will do is they will help you solve a problem in your life. They're not going to help you fix you. They will solve a problem in your life that you would like to create a better surrounding, whether it be people, places, things, work, whatever you have a challenge with. And they'll be there. I'm the torchbearer of, I've lived your life, I've lived so many of your experiences, but I've found a way to go into society, found these wonderful people who can help you with resources you never received. So I'd like to say, welcome, Jessica. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you can make a difference in my Aspie women's and men's lives?
Great. Thank you, Suzanne. What a beautiful mission you have. Honestly, I'm just blown away by the scope of what you were doing. And I know it's so important to the population of that you're helping. So my name's Jessica Waters, and for over 25 years, I've been a professional organizer, which basically means that I've gone into people's homes and offices and I've helped them declutter and reorganize in a way that works for the way their brain works. Everybody's different. Everybody has different ways of coming into relationship with their surroundings. And so it's been a lifelong process for me to learn how to find that place where people were and go there with them. So I feel like this is perfect right now. Um, in the last few years, I have taken my business virtual. So I work with people online. It's an incredible way to work with people, actually. I wasn't sure how it was going to work, and it ends up that it's fantastic to work one-on-one with people in their homes, particularly women, but I also work with men, helping them figure out how to arrange their environment in a way that allows them to expand into who they actually are and so that their life can flow easily and smoothly.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. That is so necessary for all of us because, as you may know, overwhelm is
Over.
one of the biggest factors that we deal with on a daily basis. Whether it's too many people in our homes, too many sound effects, too much of anything in our home, overwhelm is the biggest challenge that can either drive someone to really be stressed out or go the opposite direction and just immobilize them.
Right.
I want to say that let's start at the beginning. When
Okay.
someone moves into a new environment,
Right.
because a lot of us do want to be independent. So I find that when we move into a new environment, just the boxes and the totes and the this and the clothing and everything can overwhelm us to the fact that we may not even get organized for a year later because we tend to find that if we can't get things into the places that will work for us, we just give up. How can you
Absolutely.
solve that
But
problem for
I
us?
just want you to know that that is that way for so many people, wherever you are on any spectrum, that can, being confronted with so many decisions, so much information is absolutely overwhelming. And one of the things that has worked for me personally in my life when I'm confronted by overwhelm is to remind myself to just narrow the visual field down to what I can handle. So if that
Mhm.
just means, you look at a stack of boxes and you go, oh, I'm never going to be able to do that. Just take one down and say, I'm not even going to look at the rest of it. Now, a lot of us also simultaneously have OCD or perfectionism. And so we
Right.
want it all done in one day. But,
Yes.
and this is where, for me, I talk to myself a lot. That has been very helpful for me because I've never been diagnosed with ADD, but I know that I have it because my focus can go all over the place. So when I feel overwhelmed, the very first thing I do is I remind myself as soon as possible to just narrow down the scope of whatever it is I'm doing to a manageable bite size. So,
Mhm.
like I said before, take one box, one, and say, okay, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to work on this today. And I'm not even going to think about those other things. I know they're there. I know they're there, but I'm just not going to think about them. And one by one, that's how it gets done. You just have to scale down your personal expectations, not beat yourself up that, oh, I should have done this or I should do this or somebody else could do it better or faster or whatever. Irrelevant. If you want to
Mhm.
get it done, you just have to scale it down to what works for you. So I recommend just work on one box. And if at the end of that one box you go, I could handle another box, then do. And if not, if you get halfway through and say, that's all I can do, then stop. There's no, there's no like punishing person that's standing over you except you. We
Right.
all do it to ourselves. We don't, but there's in reality, as adults, there's really no one there going, you should be doing this faster or better, or, it's just the message in our own head.
It is a relationship with ourselves for sure.
Yes,
And we
yes,
need
yes,
to
yes.
have grace for ourselves. I've said this on a number of my
Absolutely.
podcasts. Having grace for yourselves. Physically, what I found worked for me, because I have a covered overhang right outside my doors, sometimes it might be nice to take extra boxes and move them out. If you have a cupboard, a garage, a porch, a covered section,
Absolutely.
where you can take everything
The
out, not
visual
leave it there
overwhelm.
overnight because you don't want to upset your neighbors. That's a
But
relationship
even
thing.
if you have a garage or even like a spare bedroom, if you can just push everything into where it's out of your visual field and you are in control of what comes into your visual field, absolutely, all the better.
Exactly. I had two storage units and my family was trying to help me clear out one whole storage. And I had it because I was moving from a house into, I wasn't sure where, into a tiny home was my plan. And I wanted to put it into two storage, one to go up to New England and one to stay in Texas here. But they kind of wanted me to get rid of it all at once. And so I found myself with too many boxes at the same time. So you're right. I mean, what I ended up doing is getting him out of my line of vision and saying, this is just the first one. And try and go with the boxes that are easiest. Like I found the kitchen was easy just
Yeah,
because,
everybody has their own place that they think is the easiest.
well, that's true. Very true. I mean, I guess it's from the standpoint that anything that's kitchen or anything that's bathroom or anything that's bedroom is specified to that location. So would you say that that makes it easier if it has only one function.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you've packed it in that way that you can say, this is a box of kitchen. But I know for a lot of people, when they're packing a move, it's often the last minute and people just throw things willy-nilly into boxes and it could be very random and miscellaneous. And that makes it harder on the way to unpacking is because, you know, what I say to people all the time is miscellaneous piles disappear because our brain doesn't know how to sort a box. When we open a box and there's kitchen and bathroom and office and bedroom stuff all into one box, our brain doesn't know how to process that. And so, if at all possible, when you're packing, to keep it separate. I mean, it's not always possible, but as much as possible, if you can sort it into categories. And there are a lot of people who have a problem with sorting. And that's not like a character defect. It's just everybody has a beautiful, beautiful, unique brain. And some people's brains are musical, and some people's brains are mathematical, and some people's brains can sort very quickly and easily, and other people will look at a pile of things that maybe I could say, oh, obviously, that goes in the kitchen, that goes in the bedroom, that goes in the office. Somebody else might just look at it and go, I have no idea. I cannot, my brain doesn't work that way. I know that my brain, when it comes to like geometry, I cannot. My brain just
No.
goes, forget it, can't do geometry. But patterns, I can see patterns. So it just, there's no right or wrong. You know, our culture rewards certain ways that brains work and shames the way other brains work. And I just try to eliminate that shame reward arch because it doesn't help. Like it's not beneficial to anybody. I believe that we should all set up our environment in the way that works best for us.
Right. You said a lot of key things there. One of them, I agree with the geometry. And I just did an article the other day about formulas, step after step after step. And that's the way I tend to do it. As soon as I know I'm going to move, that's when I start. I start in
Yeah,
one room and I will first pack the things I have to have
right.
in that one room. Because when you do that, when let's just say I'm only allowing 2 boxes for my bathroom, you tend to be a lot more critical about what has to come and what has to go. So the timing, if you sort it on the end of packing, when you're
Right.
unpacking, it becomes a lot easier.
Yes.
Formula is time. Okay,
And you know
how
what?
much time?
I just found out something last night that blew me away. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know how effective it is. But apparently, if you take a photograph of, let's say, your room or bookshelf or whatever, and you upload it into Chat GPT and you or another AI thing, and you ask, what's the best way for me to organize this? It will spew out, you know, put the books in one box, put the da da, you know, which is a game changer. And I'd
Oh,
like to try it. I want to see if, you know, how that works for people. This one woman that was talking about it, she says that she takes a picture of her refrigerator and Chat GPT gives her recipes based on what's in her refrigerator and
I really love that.
spews out a grocery list according to departments in the grocery store.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's amazing. Like things that we haven't even thought of using AI for. I mean, I'm not like I'm definitely frightened of AI, but at the same time, I'm also enthralled by it because it has been so, so, so helpful. But I want to make
There,
sure, yeah,
yeah,
I want to make sure that we also talk about when you've already moved in, because I think for most people, they're not moving. They're already
right.
there. Right.
Exactly.
So
I
I
only
want to,
mention it because I know
yeah,
a lot of my listeners are working, if they haven't already gotten there yet, into becoming independent. So that's why I wanted to start there. Let's
Yes.
start at the
Yes.
beginning of
Yes.
getting things into place in the first place. Now let's
Right.
go to the next part, which is
Well, again, I wanted in
maintaining.
summary of that, I think using an AI list, just type in as much as you can, information as you can, or take a picture and upload it and say what would be the best way to do this. I just think that's amazing. Like because as you said, I think I read the same article where it said that when people have Asperger's, they really appreciate a step by step because then they don't have to focus on the whole thing. They can just focus
Yes.
on what comes next. But honestly, I think that's the same way for most people. You know, it's just really nice to have somebody who's not overwhelmed or some, I don't know what you want to call it, AI energy, um, who's not overwhelmed, just dispassionately make a list so that you can follow it. And obviously, you know, there's going to be every situation is different. So it's not like every time AI spews out a list, it's going to work for everybody, but
Right.
it will give you a basic place to start. So
Thanks.
I think that um, when people want to begin the process, let's say they live in an environment that feels overwhelming to them in general,
Hmm.
generally overwhelming. This is just too much for me. And you know, the super important thing to remember is that threshold of overwhelm is different for every single person. But every time you, anybody, you, what's the word? Like, uh, not submerge, but like repress that feeling of overwhelm, then it turns into anxiety. And you
Hmm.
might not even make the connection between the two. You might not understand, why do I feel anxious when I walk into that room? You might not connect because you have like subconsciously repressed that feeling of being overwhelmed by all the things. Now, in my experience, even when people don't realize it, everything you own has what I call energetic noise. So it has a tone, a sound, a frequency, however you want to look at it. And if you have this cacophony of so many things, and I'm not saying be a minimalist by any stretch, I'm not.
Yeah.
I have a ton of stuff I'm looking right now, I'm looking at a ton of stuff, but every single thing that I'm looking at is something that I've chosen that I want to be in my environment. So
Hmm.
when you approach the things in your environment with the understanding that everything has a frequency and a resonance, if you pick something up and you really tune in, you know, it doesn't have to be anything mystical or anything. It's just a simple thing. You put it in your hand and you ask yourself, does this give me energy or does it take energy away? And when you really tune in, it's super easy to let go of stuff that doesn't resonate with you, that's not on the same harmonic frequency as you.
I
So,
felt that. Yes.
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 So when you and let's say you're thinking, oh, I don't want to give away or sell or let go of all that, throw away whatever it is, all this stuff. I get it. Put it in a box. You know, like let's say you're not moving and you don't have a ton of boxes already. You're already there, everything's unpacked, and you're looking around and you're going, okay, I'm going to touch every single solitary thing. And that's like the most beautiful gift that anyone can give themselves is to touch everything and make a
Mhm.
decision about it. You can put those things in a box or a bag or whatever you want, seal it up, put 6 months on it, the date in 6 months. And if you haven't missed it, don't even open it. Just take it away, you know, throw it away, give it away, whatever. And I really appreciate Dana K. White's system. Part of her, I mean, I don't ascribe to it completely, but I really like her system of when you come into an environment. Let's say you're looking at your desk, right?
Mhm.
Your home office, right? You got a desk, it's got a ton of junk on it, right? And it's like, I don't know what to do. First thing you do is you look and you throw away anything that's obviously trash, right? a gum wrapper, an old muffin, whatever it is, a pencil that doesn't work anymore. You just throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. You don't even have to think about it. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't, you don't have any emotional anything about it. Then, so your visual field is a little bit lighter, right? You've now thrown away
Mm-hmm.
things that you have zero emotional connection to, and so your field is a little bit lighter. Now, I differ from her, so I'm just going to say the way that I would do it. So then, you look at the space and you look at things that may not be trash, but that you don't have any emotional connection to, right? Like, I don't care about that speaker or that mouse or whatever it is on your desk. I don't have any problem getting rid of it. So I'm gonna either throw it away or it's not like trash, like a gum wrapper or something, but it's the next step of just, I don't want it. I don't have any emotional attachment to it. It doesn't hurt to let it go. So you move those things into either give away or throw away, right? Easy.
Mm-hmm.
So now
Can I
you've
interrupt you
gone,
for one moment?
absolutely,
I
absolutely.
have a box, so Marcia, donate right on it. So
Yeah,
that it's so easy to plunk it in instead of saying, where am I going to put this now?
right, right. Yes, that's great. I recommend that people always come to any decluttering project with a trash bag and one or two cardboard boxes. Dana K. White says, um, I don't remember what she calls it, but it's like a, a container that you don't need to keep. So you could take it to the thrift shop and you don't need it back. It could be like a broken laundry basket or a tote bag from a store, something you don't care about, something that's disposable, that you give awayable. So the first one is obvious trash. The second one is obvious things that you just don't care about. Zero emotional attachment. The third pass is things that go somewhere else. So maybe there's a
Mhm.
plate of something you ate, or something that goes in the first aid kit, or a
Tools.
screwdriver. Yeah, or tools that might go in the toolbox or whatever it is. You take those. Now she says pick each one up and go into, like, one at a time, go away and like bring that tool there and then come back and take that plate. And I don't think so. For me, I think it's, just put in a teeny little pile. When the pile gets a little bit overwhelming, then take a little break and put everything away and then come back. So now you've gone 3 levels. The first level is trash. The second level is things that you just don't have any emotional attachment to. The third one is things that don't belong in that space, whatever it is. The fourth, then now you're getting into, like, now you've cleared the field, and I call it almost like the end game.
Mhm.
Now you're like, like if you were playing chess, now you're like at that point where, okay, now I've got little sparks of emotional attachment to these things that are left. What am I going to do with them? So, as I said, this is my thing that I tell people. Pick it up, ask yourself, do I love it? Does this give me energy or does this take energy away? And a lot of times the things that fetch people up are gifts from other people,
Mhm.
or inherited things, or things that remind them of a past time of who they were in the past. And I'm going to give that example that you may have heard. I use this one a lot, which is that I was working with a woman who, so she was going through her things, like I had taken stuff off a shelf and put it on a flat surface, and she was going through them. And I was pulling out the obvious trash and just throwing it away, like papers, scraps of paper and stuff. So I pick up a shot glass, broken, smashed, like jagged, smashed. And I went to throw it out. She said, no, no, no. I said, you don't want me to throw this out? No, no, no. When I was in nursing school, that that shot glass was from a bar that I used to go to after school every day with all my friends. And it reminds me of the wonderful, fun laughter times that we had. And I said, okay, you don't have to throw anything out. I'm going to put this. So I said, here's a shelf. I'm going to put this on the shelf, and we're going to call the shelf the decompression chamber. And the decompression chamber is going to suck the memory out from the thing, right? It's like this magic little box that's invisible, but it has the power to take the memory out of the thing. So we
Mm-hmm.
kept going, and a few minutes later, I picked up the shot glass and I showed it to her, and she said, "Oh my goodness, throw that out. My 3-year-old could really hurt himself on that." Boom,
Wow.
done,
Yeah.
done. We took the memory, we extricated the memory from the thing. She didn't need to take a picture of it. She didn't need to do anything. Now, sometimes, so I've had other clients who, one woman had like probably 75 rock and roll t-shirts that she had bought when she was in her 20s, and she'd go to concerts and she'd buy a t-shirt. She never wore them. It wasn't appropriate at her age to wear these, or to her style or whatever. And I'm not saying it's not appropriate. I just mean, like, for her, it wasn't appropriate. And so we just took pictures. We had a really
Mm.
fun day where we just took pictures of the shirts. Other people have cut out the part with the design on it and turned it into a quilt. I'm not that crafty, so I don't do that. But you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of different ways. You could glue them. I mean, here's the thing. You do not want to give yourself another task. So
Right.
whatever, if you love crafting and you're looking around for a craft to do, great. But for most people, if they have a craft room, or they have they do crafts, they already have too many projects. Yeah, already have too many projects. Don't give yourself another project. But there are other ways to do it, like take pictures right then and there. And then I guarantee you, there's some teenager that would go wild over a collection of t-shirts like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you would make somebody else very happy, and you would know that something that you were giving it to someone that would use them, and it would make them very happy. Because I know for a lot of people, I had a client tell me just the other night, she said, it's very important for me to know that when I'm giving something away, it's going to somebody who's going to appreciate it. She said, I don't need the kudos, but I want to know that I'm not just like basically throwing it away, that they're not just going to stick it in their closet and never use it. I want to give my art supplies to a kindergarten class, or I want to give my old bedding to a pet shelter, and that's fine. But again, don't give yourself another task that you're not going to do. If you're going to do it,
Right.
great. If you know that I'm going to clean out my linen closet, and I'm going to take all this bedding to the not the homeless shelter, the whatever you call it, the pet place, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going to really use it, and I'm going to do it tomorrow, put it in your car. Like, that's so that it can leave. Don't let it sit in your hallway for 3 months or 6 years or whatever, because that's just another task. If you're going to do that, then just throw it away.
Yeah. That's
So,
one of
okay.
the things that we have been told in my line of work of atomic habit, take it one step closer to where
Yeah.
it's gonna go.
Yeah. Like the car. Yeah. So, okay. So now we've done the trash. We've done the non emotional connecting things. We've done the gone somewhere else. And then now we've done the things that you have that are emotional. And here's the thing. The other night, somebody said, do I have to throw away all my clutter? And it's so funny that she said that to me, because if you think of it as clutter, then yeah, if
Yeah.
it's clutter, you have, why are you keeping it? It's not clutter if you love it. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. No one on earth can make the determination if something is clutter except you. You are the only person on earth, because what's valuable to one person may not be valuable to another. So just make sure that you understand. I don't care if somebody says you should, that's their problem. That's not your problem. So
Mm-hmm.
now we have whittled it down to the things, everything now in your space that you have decluttered through these other steps, you now have what's left, right? It might be in a
Right.
disarray, whatever. So my recommendation at that point is to take everything and move it just right near you, whether it's on the floor or another flat surface, whatever it is. And this part is very important, and I'll explain why in a minute. You want to get some spray cleaner and you want to spray it and get all the dust off, all the dust, all the little everything. Make it sparkle and shine. Why? Because, okay, in feng shui, which is basically just a Chinese methodology, or I don't know what you want to call it, way of looking at the world, everything has energy, but dust collects negative energy. Dust
Hmm.
collects negative energy, and dust, it holds negative energy and it also attracts negative energy. So you want to
Wow.
wipe that space. You know, if you have a religious practice or a spiritual practice, if you want to burn incense, if you want to burn sage, whatever it is, you just want to wish it well. You know, just look at that empty space and say your intention. This is my desk, or this is my kitchen drawer, or this is the cabinet where I'm going to keep my food, the food that nourishes me, or this is the place where I'm going to put the sheets that I can sleep peacefully on. Whatever it is, kind of give it a blessing of whatever is right for you. And then you can start to put things back in their place, where they go, where it works for you, not someone else, not in a book, not the way somebody you read in a magazine, but where it works for you. And
Hmm.
the way that you do that is you take the things that you use the most and you put them in what I call prime real estate. That means within arm's reach, eye level, the easiest, the things you use the most, you put in the places that are easiest to reach and concentrically go out from there. And in that process, I'm going to guess that you'll find more things that you don't really care about. You know,
Right.
it's just that process. And it's that simple. That's it. You do that with every single space that you have in your life. It doesn't matter if it's like a storage unit where it's huge and overwhelming, or if it's a teeny tiny little drawer in your bathroom. It doesn't matter. You want to get rid of the stuff that you don't resonate with, clear out the space, bless it with your intention, and then put things back where they belong in usefulness or order.
Absolutely. Oh, that's
Amen.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
I
Storage
don't
units.
think I've ever like said it so clearly before.
Well, there you go. Well,
You
you'll
know,
have the
just like
recording
the
for this, so
process.
you'll
Yeah,
be able to use it.
yeah, that's great.
Talk to me for a moment about storage units and garages. Now, I'm funny, and a lot of people laugh at me because I'm a puzzle maker. I can do jigsaw puzzles. And every time people come into my extra space, let's say because you don't want your Christmas tree in your living room
Right,
12 months of the
right,
year. So
right,
I have what is considered holiday decor.
right,
And then I also have what it used to be my education stuff because my future is to have a community. So, okay, that goes to the back where I don't need it. Everyone looks in and says, you don't just have clutter in these spaces, you have everything lined up. And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe in cardboard and I don't believe in stacking. Because
right,
when you stack, you start to get involved in other boxes.
right,
Whereas if by having the shelves, you're going toward one
right,
specific box. And so
right,
people will laugh at me and say, I've never seen you get so much in a closet, in a storage unit, and it's neat.
right,
And it's like, it's the way that I can allow myself to get the things out of my space that I don't need on a daily basis, but
right,
yet not be overwhelmed by it
right,
there either.
right. And
What is
I
your
like
feeling?
I like what you said about how your idea of a storage unit, which could be a garage or a basement or an attic, depending on where you live and what you have, you know, a spare space, I like that you only use it for things that you do use. It's not like I don't use my Christmas tree. I just don't use my Christmas tree every day of the year, right? So it's, like I think things like skis or, water skis or whatever, seasonal things, things that you don't have space for in your regular space. But so many people don't use um, storage or extra space like that. They just put things that are delayed decisions. And that's the difference. Your what it sounds like what you've done with your storage unit is very conscientious. You have consciously decided these are the things that I want to keep, but are seasonal. And they don't whether the season is every year or a future intention, like I'm going to have a community and so I want these books. Whatever it is, you have been conscientious about placing them in there. What I feel is not optimal is when people use those spare spaces as a way to delay decisions,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
You
Yes.
have not delayed decisions. You've made decisions about everything in there. A
Yeah.
delayed
In
decision is
fact,
when you just go, I'm not looking at this, it's too emotional for me. I'm just going to shove it into a storage unit and not think about it ever again. And I
in
think that
fact,
for most people, when they have a neat storage unit or space or whatever, closet, it's because they have made those conscious decisions. They have do what I call touch everything. Touch everything. Your life changes when you make a decision about every single solitary thing in your life. And here's the thing, when you first start out with touch everything, you're not going to be good at it because you're just, it's like going to the gym the first day. You're not really, you got to build those muscles. You got to build the
yeah.
decision making muscles. But once you feel the resonance, once you learn how to feel that resonance one way or the other, it becomes a breeze, an absolute breeze to make decisions.
Oh yeah.
And that,
Oh, yeah.
and that
A
happens
lot of
with
people will
everyone.
say to me too, "Oh, you have two storage units. Why? Why not bring it closer?" Because, and I try to explain to them, when you have something in a town that's off the beaten road, you're more likely to forget about it. I have one that is on the Texas interstate. And I explained to them, I said, if I bring that back to the town I'm living in right now, it's not that much closer to New England. And I spent all this time to get it to where I needed to be. Why would I want to bring it back just so I have to look at it?
Well, I tell you, it's really important to feel good about the decisions that you make, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Period.
Right.
Amen. Period. Amen. That's it. You know, like your life is your life. And if you one of the things that happens when you learn how to feel the resonance with the things in your life is you also, by extension, you learn how to feel the integrity of decisions that you make that are not about something.
I
Like,
like that.
you know
Yeah.
what? I feel good about having two storage units. I know what I'm doing. It's a plan that I feel good about. And I'll tell you something, just exactly the opposite is true as well. Somebody might say, well, why do you have two storage units? And you might go, well, I want to keep two storage units. And the minute you feel yourself like being defensive, that's the moment that you need to look and see, why are you being defensive? Because if you feel good about it, then it's nothing. It's like somebody says, well, Suzanne, why do you have two storage units? And you go, because it works for me that way. But if you say,
Hmm.
because I want to, then you see this, you're grasping onto something that isn't true. You
Right.
know,
Oh, yeah.
when your body is relaxed at confrontation, you're in your integrity.
That's right. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Uh, and it's funny. One of the other things I have found for my possessions is there's no such thing as a junk drawer. In this
Yeah.
day and age of having Dollar Trees, Dollar Generals, they sell so many cute little baskets and such that go inside of drawers someone will say, "Where's your junk drawer?" And I'm like, "I don't have one. I
Yeah.
have a drawer that is miscellaneous.
Utility drawer.
It's utility drawer, and it
Yeah.
has a place for everything and everything in its place." I always
Right.
went by that.
But I just want you to know that for you, that's amazing and fantastic that you are able to keep things to that degree. Many people can't. And I don't want them to feel bad because they don't have the ability without tools and information to know how to do that. Like you do instinctively, which is fantastic. I mean, it really is. But not everybody knows how to do that. They weren't taught or they just innately don't have that skill. And that's why I have a lot of compassion because my dad was a complete slob. And my mother and my stepmother were both like total, you know, OCD regiment, like they were, yeah, the
It was
opposites. So I'm,
exactly reverse in my family. It was my dad and I were very
yeah,
compartmentalized, and my mom was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"I'm,"
chaos.
and her words, "I'm too lazy to change it." I said, "I'll help you." "No, I can't find anything."
Right.
Okay, that's where I'd
Well,
like to go to next, is
it's a
going in.
perfect, this is a
Yeah.
perfect portal into the next thing, which is the emotions around clutter. So when I hear a story like that, which is very common, what I hear is I feel over controlled and I want to exert control in, in the way that I can, which is to say, I'm not doing it, because obviously she would be able to find things if there was a place, everything had a place and there wasn't a lot of junk around. But we have to have compassion for ourselves and for the other people in our lives. We have to really listen, just like with clutter, you have to listen to the underlying message. And there's so many ways that people use clutter as a weapon, as a security blanket, as a um, well, let's just start with those two. A weapon,
Mhm.
she was using it as a weapon. It was her way of saying, you're not the boss of me, right? So
Exactly.
a lot of us go to that childhood place. Maybe our parents were over controlling. Maybe our parents were chaotic. Everybody's situation, how they come to it is different. But I call it a clutter tantrum. When you see somebody with like an explosion of stuff in the background, I feel like that's a clutter tantrum. And a lot of times, when I was working, well, even now, even on video, I can do it. I can read somebody's clutter. And sometimes it's about, loneliness. Sometimes it's about feeling over controlled, resentment, and rebelliousness. Sometimes it's about grief, like, if somebody became ill, chronically ill, and they can no longer do the things they used to do. Sometimes they have a lot of grief and it hangs heavy in the background, um, just keeping them suppressed by this heaviness of grief. Sometimes they feel rage, and it is so obvious. They are surrounded by rage. Like the rage is in every single thing in their environment. It's just keeping them locked in this cage of rage. So everybody's clutter has different reasons. And I just really believe that when people are ready to confront in a loving way the emotions underneath their clutter, that's where I come in. I'm like somebody that can bear witness, keep them on track, and remind them this is why we're doing this. This is what you said you wanted. You know, this is what I'm seeing from the outside. I might not be right every single time, but most of the time, people, they either get defensive, which means I've hit on the truth, or
Hmm.
they say, no, I don't think that's it, which is what I'm looking for in a negative. Like if somebody just says, no, I don't think that's it, then that's probably not it. But if they say no, then I know, okay, we're going to work there a little bit more. We don't have to work there now, but let's work
Mm-hmm.
our way towards it. Or they go, oh, wow, I never realized that. You know, it's like a door opens, and that door opening to realizing that we kept that thing because of XYZ reason. Now I don't have to keep it anymore because I realize that doesn't really make sense for my life. I don't need to keep that. I had a client who told me that whenever her, I don't know what it was, aunt or stepmother or whatever it was, would come over, they would quickly take one of the paintings off the wall and put the one that she gave them on the wall. And they hated it. It was like buried in a closet. And I said, why do you do that? And they said, oh, because she gets very upset. Okay, listen, if that works for you to do it that way, great, continue to do it. You know, they had space in their closet, it wasn't bothering anybody, and if it kept the peace in their family, fantastic. But for other people, things like that keep them uh, uh, hostage. I call it
Mm.
hostage clutter, you know, that you keep things because somebody else wants you to have it, you know, demands that you have it. That's
Right.
hostage clutter. That's hostage clutter. And like I
Yes,
said, if it's no big deal, if the aunt comes over once every blue moon and you know, it's like a 10-minute thing, fine. But if it holds the energy of hostage clutter, that's holding you hostage. For
it
what?
is.
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So every single thing that you own vibrates at a specific frequency, and you want, well, I can't say what you want, but most people want their environment to be a reflection, a resonance of who they are and which direction they're going in now. And so that's what I encourage people to do, is to look around. And you know, when you look around with the eyes of, does it resonate with me? Immediately things jump out that don't, right?
Right.
Stick out like a sore thumb. Like if you had, I don't know if you've ever seen that picture of like a thousand white sheep and then there's like a black sheep in the middle. That's what it looks like. It looks like so obvious because it's like, oh, why is that there? Oh, get rid of that. It doesn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start pulling those things out and getting them out of your energetic field, your environment sings in the harmony of who you are.
Hmm. Very true. Just yesterday, I had extra containers. And so my mom had mentioned that she'd like to clean up her garage. So I took her the containers. I didn't do anything with them. I just made them available.
Uh-huh.
In this way, I think she felt like now she didn't have to go get them herself. I had them extra, so it wasn't money because a
Right.
lot of her stuff is triggered by it costs, and I had them extra. I'd pick them up and use
Right.
them. But I think sometimes, and the idea of cardboard, fatigued cardboard, drives
Yeah.
me crazy,
Oh,
or wet
I'm with you
cardboard.
100%. I'm with you
Wet
100%.
cardboard, fatigue cardboard isn't protecting anything.
Right.
And
No,
so
I'm
I
with
had a
you.
bunch of
Yeah.
extra containers because I was gonna keep my stuff in a storage and not in my environment because I need to have a tidy environment.
Yeah.
Even my sewing machine right now and stuff is inorganized. And my friend walked into my closet and she's like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
So I'm like, but that's the only way I know of to bring more positivity into my life.
Right.
And so you have to know who you are. You
Yeah.
have to know what your
Well, you
needs
can do this.
are.
Can be the road to discovery. That's the cool thing. Is like,
Yes.
you don't have to know who you are. It obviously it helps to know who you are, but if you don't know who you are, or if you think you know who you are, but you're not really that thing and it never feels right, like wearing somebody else's clothes, then in this process, if you're willing to really do this process, then you get to find out who you are. Oh, I'm not the kind of person who likes XYZ. I thought I was. But actually,
Mm-hmm.
when I hold it in my hands and I say, does this give me energy or take energy away? I found out that I don't really like that stuff. I don't, you know,
No,
whether it's books or whether it's, I don't know what a craft or a way to cook or whatever, cookbooks, anything.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there are so many places now that can definitely use your unwanted items, that you're passing them
Yes.
along to people who could use them
Yes.
or
Yes.
better use them than you are.
Yes.
One of the things I wanted to talk about is, of course, we were talking about maintaining, but as we go through and we start to see, okay, I like this, but I don't have the furniture. How do you help your clients understand whether they should get rid of an item that they love or get a piece of furniture that will better suit its
Well, I mean,
presentation?
so much of that depends on their budget, right? Like if you can't afford something, don't beat yourself up. Use what you have until there might be something that pops up. A lot of times when you look, it depends on where you live, but a lot of times Facebook Marketplace will have some great stuff for really cheap. Um, Sometimes there's barter networks. Sometimes there's free, free piles, thrift shops, whatever. I don't think, I think it's really important not to let that stand in your way. I have a client right now that she has delayed her process for a month. We're working together. She delayed her process for a month because she couldn't find the right piece of furniture. And finally I said, you know what, this doesn't make sense. Like, let's keep going, and when that thing comes, then you can switch things around, but don't don't use that as an excuse to hold you back.
Hmm. Mm. I think I've said this so many times. You have to know yourself. When my brother was helping me move in, he's like, "We could keep these totes here for a year or so." I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 I
Right.
don't want to look at totes because that's unsettling.
Yeah. To you. That to you,
Yeah.
it's unsettling. Now, remember, that's because, from what I'm understanding from you, you have a very clear resonance with everything in your environment. And that would be like what I was saying with the black sheep, like it would stand out like neon, like all the time. You would look at it and go, that's not mine. I don't feel resonant with it. It's in my space. You have a very
Mhm.
clear understanding of where you feel comfortable in your space. That is a gift that you are blessed with. And just be very grateful for that, because not everybody has that, you know?
No.
Yeah.
A lot of other people I've said, like, you can get something expensive but new if people are stuck on and I know a lot of my women are like, I'm afraid to buy some of these online shoppers. I'm like, if you're not afraid to put kits together, and I've discovered I enjoyed that. That's
Yeah.
something I thoroughly enjoy. You can save a lot of money with a piece of furniture by buying an IKEA kit,
Right.
buying a kit from one of these stores that will send it to you. And you get the fun of putting it together. At least I consider it fun.
Right.
Anyone needs help putting something together, I'm your person. I
Suzanne will
can
come
do
to your
that.
house and help you put it together.
Exactly. I'll come and do
Well,
that part of.
I think that TaskRabbit, I don't know if they have it in your community, but TaskRabbit is actually sponsored by IKEA. I didn't know that until very recently. IKEA is like the
Uh,
sponsor of TaskRabbit, because so many
of
people would get IKEA things and they'd be like, do this. There are too many parts. There's too many instructions. I get it. Some people absolutely love to do it. And, other people are willing to do it, but don't really love doing it. And then other people just sort of like, I can't do it. I need to hire somebody.
I can't read those directions. Yeah, I often thought about putting my name on TaskRabbit, just like the Container
Yes.
Store had that show Get Organized.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are resources out there that can
Yes.
help you
But don't
to.
let things like the proper container. You know, you can use cardboard like shoe
Yeah.
boxes, or, you know, I am ridiculous in how many, if I see a jar, like I just used up a jar of soy sauce um, the other night that is a really pretty jar. I can't throw those away. I have like, you know, several jars, and I don't put food in plastic. So the old plastic containers that I used to have, I keep them in a little crate so that when I'm going to a potluck or to somebody, the neighbor's house or whatever, I can just take it and I don't care if it stays there. You know,
Right.
it's
Exactly.
just, it's not important to me. So, you know, they're different, but I also use jars and bottles that that, you know, like when I finish the pickle jar and it's this nice, beautiful pickle jar, I use it for something else as needed. So don't let not being able to afford or not being able to find the right equipment stand in the way of your progress. That's so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much fun I've discovered, and this might help a lot of people, is I like seeing how a piece of furniture or a piece of shelving takes on a new role in a new home. It's like,
Yes.
oh, I used it in my craft room in that place. I used it in my kitchen in this place. I'm using this, and for the second time, over my TV as a makeshift. So I
Yeah,
like repurposing
absolutely.
furniture. And
Absolutely.
now,
There's no reason that just because it says that this is a such and such that you have to use it that way.
yeah, my hope chest is now where it used to be in my bedroom is now my bench seat for putting on shoes and socks. Don't be afraid
Perfect
to
example.
move to the location is needed and saying,
Yes.
nope, it's a hope chest. It has to be at the
Right.
end of my bed. And if I can't put it at the end of my bed, I don't want it. I
Right.
mean, I put
That doesn't
all of
make
my
any sense.
recipe books in my hope chest.
Yeah. Well, you know, here's the thing. If if you don't have that kind of a mind that can be creative like that, which is fine, ask somebody who does. You know, have a friend come over. I can't tell you how many times I've had friends come over to help me like rearrange my furniture in a way that made better sense, because like geometry is not my thing. It's we live in a teeny tiny little cabin right now, and it turns out that when it's small, I do have a flair for it. When it's bigger, not so much. But, you know, we have used every single inch of space in this house appropriate to what, you know, we have shelves, we had shelves. You know, I don't know how it is wherever you are, but like we actually had a guy on Facebook Marketplace make us three different pieces of furniture. You know, they're metal bars with wood shelves, and one of them is for our firewood, and one of them is for like we measured our toaster oven and how much space did we need, and we gave him the measurements for exactly what we needed, and it's beautiful. It worked absolutely perfectly. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, I just feel like if you can't do something, ask a friend who can, or hire
Mm-hmm.
somebody who knows how to do it.
Swap
Yeah,
skills. Yeah.
swap skills. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So
Good.
this has been a wonderful conversation we've had today. Can you think of anything else that we might not have talked about? I think the only other thing is when you go in, how would you maybe put on an emotional blinder to someone else's possessions? I know there are times when we might go visiting for an extended time. Can you think of how you could, and this might be out of your ballpark a little bit, but we were talking about the emotional impact of items, and you were talking about the fact that it's someone else's belongings. Can you put on an emotional
I
protection so
don't
that
think it's a
someone
good
else's energy?
I don't think it's a good idea to put on blinders. I think if you can, the best thing you could do, if you can, as soon as you can, is to try to find the compassion, like what I was saying before about, you know, maybe somebody says they're lazy because they feel over controlled. Maybe you could have compassion that, okay, they feel out of control, and this is their way of taking a stand for themselves. Maybe just understand that, okay, for whatever reason, I don't know, I'm not them. Maybe I could approach them, maybe not. Maybe you just go, okay, I might have to live with, and this works for like spouses, people or kids, people who live together, that one might be a certain way and the other one might be a different way. I don't know if that's what you mean, but that
Yeah,
happens a lot where
sharing space
sharing a
so that
space.
you're not, neither one of you are feeling the angst of
Right,
how the other person lives.
right,
I had been with my mom for a few months and I'd been with another person for a few months, and how to have the compassion but then find the happy medium
right,
between the two of you. It was kind of funny. It was like, let me just give you an interesting example. She brought in two pieces of kitchen supply. I had originally been in the home. She brought in two pieces of kitchen, like a toaster. She wanted her own toaster and then one other thing. And then she said, well, our countertops are too crowded because your stuff is too big.
right, right. Well, here's the thing. When you're in that unfair situation where you're in their space, you kind of just have to grin and bear it. But if you are husband and wife, or, I don't want to get into the thing, but if you're spouses with someone or roommates or whatever, and you're equal partners, then there has to be conversation about it. You know,
Hmm.
like, you know, person, I love you. I love living with you, but I don't think it's fair that the entire living room is taken up by your things. I would like to feel like it's my space as well. And
Hmm.
so if you could help me find a place where we both can live with it, I know that my threshold might be up here and your threshold might be here. Let's find a place where we meet in the middle. Okay, it's not going to be exactly how I want it, but it also won't be exactly how you want it. So it will feel like we've agreed and we've met each other halfway. Now, you might have somebody who is absolutely refuses to do that, and then you have to make different decisions. But if that person is a caring person who is willing to compromise, then like I said, you're not going to get it 100% your way, but neither are they. And so you each have to bend a little bit to make it so that it works for everybody. But
Oh,
when you're in someone else's space for a period of time, and they insist that things are their way, then that's a choice that you're making. You're making the choice to be in their space. So, you don't really have that much of a. I mean, you could bring up the conversation, but you might not get the answer that you want.
yes. Two funny stories I'd like to share as we wrap up, and feel free if this brings on a story of your own.
Okay.
When I was married, my daughter's dad had jackets. I mean, he had a jacket for every occasion. And I had my crafts and fabric. We made the 24-hour rule. The 24-hour rule was that we can notice it. And if it went to the 24 hours before it was put in its place, we couldn't say anything. After 24 hours, we could say, okay,
We
I've
need to put that
noticed
away.
your jacket
Yeah.
has been
Yeah.
on that coat
I
chair for
love that.
24 hours. Would you
Yeah.
mind? However, you had to be cognizant of your own stuff, which meant that I couldn't go and say something to him about his jacket if I had laid a fabric project or a craft project on the table for 24 hours or more. When what
Right.
this did was, I
I love
see
it.
your belongings, I see their importance. Now let's think about a time when they no longer belong there. And
Right. I
this is
love
the
it.
way that we would go back and forth. If it became a laughing game. Oh, hour 25. but
Yeah,
we weren't allowed to say something to the other person unless it hit that 24-hour mark.
I love it. I love that. I've never heard anything like that, and I absolutely love it. You know,
That
and
way,
that's the good
yeah,
thing is that the other person was amenable to that.
yes.
Unfortunately, not everybody has that luxury that, you know, their partner or roommate or whatever is that agreeable to that kind of a situation. That's a great compromise. And if both people are on board with it, that's fantastic.
And as I
That's
said,
great.
you couldn't break the rule and complain.
Right. Right. I love it. I
So
love it. That's very reasonable.
it
Yeah.
is. It's a way, and
And
we're talking
I'm
about.
very, very, very lucky because when my husband is on his own, he's kind of a mess. But when we're together, like, you know, everything is neat and organized and he puts things back where they belong. And, you know, he helps me create more space for the things that we have. And it works out really well. But I think I have a lot of compassion for people who don't have who use clutter as a weapon, you
Mm.
know, and that's the thing. Clutter often becomes a passive aggressive way to communicate.
Oh, it
And
does.
yeah, and so there's more to clutter has depth, you know. Have you ever seen those pictures of like the tip of the iceberg out of the water, but then underneath there's like 50 times more? That's what clutter is. Clutter is just that part of the iceberg that sticks out of the water. There's always more underneath.
Oh, the stories behind it. Yes. Yes. Compassion
And
is key.
the subtle communication under the water that's happening. So it's never clutter is never ever ever about stuff, ever ever ever
And
ever 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 ever.
and Jessica, that's exactly why I wanted you on the relationship part
Hmm.
of these 3 months is because
Yeah.
you're right. Is clutter is might be just a notebook left out or a piece of paper and a pencil left out, but it's always a deeper meaning beyond that.
Right. Yeah.
And getting with the people that are in your space and finding that communication
Yes, you did a
is
beautiful
the
job
key.
with your former partner. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I really appreciate that you guys had that skill of communicating with one another. Yeah.
That was the easy part.
Yeah.
There were
Yeah, there
challenges.
were other parts to it, I'm sure. Yeah.
But if you can make a joke out of it, I was dating a guy who took over his aunt's house and it was piled up to the ceiling. And that's it in my book. I'm like, yeah, no, no.
Yeah.
And then when he started buying the stuff from my house when I moved down here to Texas, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not just an aunt stuff. That is
Yeah.
a different
Well,
problem.
I think it's really important to understand that hoarding, which it sounds like he was a hoarder, is a completely different ball of wax than cluttering. It's not the same thing.
No.
Hoarding is a diagnosable disorder that needs to be addressed with intensive therapy, medication, and willingness on the part of the person who's doing it.
Yes.
It's not the same thing. I don't work with hoarders. I don't because I'm not skilled, I'm not trained. It's not what I do. It's like a totally different thing. It's like, you might
Yeah.
think it's about the stuff, but it's not. It's a disorder. It's in the DSM, whatever you call it, the manual of
And
it's a disorder.
as I learned, the difference between someone who's cluttered is you can help them and it will maintain that way. They're just looking for a different perspective, a different perception. A hoarder, you clean up after them, it goes right back to the same way it was the next week because that's their comfort level. And that's when you have to decide if this relationship is doable. It's no
Mhm.
longer about the possessions, it's now.
I do want to realign that statement.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't agree that if somebody's not a hoarder, that you can just tell them, you can help them clean up and then they'll keep it that way. I don't agree. I think that
Okay.
you have to teach them. First of all, I believe that you need to understand the principles of why people have too much stuff in their environment. You have to help
Mhm.
them, you have to create a safe space for them to examine the reasons that they have so much clutter. Because I call it the leaky basement. So if you have a leak in your basement, and water fills up, and you go downstairs and you bail and you bail and you bail, right? For 10 days, it's perfectly dry. But if you don't clog the place where the leak happened, the next time it rains, it's going to fill right up again. So that's how I perceive, if you don't compassionately examine the reason for your clutter, it's going to come back. It might not take as long, or it might take, you know, 2 days, 2 months, 2 years, however long, but it will come back because you
Mhm.
have not dealt with the reason for the clutter. And the thing is, we pass through seasons of our lives that have, like the onion peeling, like you might do a lot of work on your clutter and get yourself to the point where you feel really comfortable, but then life goes and, different things happen. Maybe something like a divorce happens or somebody dies or whatever, and you find yourself in a different part of your life where you have, you know, you revisit emotions or you have new emotions that you didn't have before, new reasons for clutter. So you have to, it's not like a one and done.
No.
It's a
Yeah,
you
and I
have to
appreciate you
constantly.
pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that what you said was a very common misconception. Very common. And I think that's what differentiates me from other organizers. I mean, there are
Mhm.
several people that are like me, that understand like me, but I call it the teach them to fish model, that saying of like give them a fish. So
Oh, yes. Oh,
yeah.
yes.
So when you help somebody clean up their space, tidy up or whatever, one time, you're giving them a fish, you know? But if you teach them how to approach the decisions and the understanding of what is lurking, emotions lurking underneath the clutter, that's teaching them to fish because then they can utilize those tools. They might need a refresher in 5 years or whatever, but they will always be able to remember once they're reminded, oh yeah, 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 yeah. I remember. I need to, like I see, and this isn't, a cookie cutter thing, but I see like if you have clutter in your kitchen, maybe take a look at how you nurture yourself or your family. Like,
Mhm.
am I angry with my family? Do I feel like I'm not getting enough help? Um, do I not feel worthy to nurture myself? A million different reasons. If I have clutter in my office, is it because don't I feel like have imposter syndrome. I don't believe I really as good at what I do, or maybe I don't like what I'm doing, or whatever. If it's in your bedroom, either do you feel super, super lonely and you wish that you had a partner? Or are
Mhm.
you angry at your partner and you want to take it out? I had one client who literally I walked into her room and she was married and there was just space for one on her bed. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
like
Yeah.
it's pretty obvious to me, but she was in it. She didn't see it,
Yeah.
and within a few months she was divorced. But these are the type of things like each place that there's clutter might have a different root cause of, root emotion of what you're going through. Again, it's not a cookie cutter thing. Everyone's
No.
different, every situation's different, but you can generalize,
Huh.
these places. Yeah.
Again, it is exactly why you're perfectly placed at the relationship part of my
Hmm.
podcast and not
Yeah.
at the time and
Yeah.
because I think that as you say, it's all about the relationship you have with your items and the relationship you have with the people that are sharing your items and
Yeah.
how you can make that flow
Yeah,
better. Not
yes,
perfectly, but better.
right. Well, again, I love the word flow and I love the word harmony because in flow, you can tell when there's a blockage, and in harmony, you can tell where there's disharmony. So when you have harmony and flow, you can feel in your integrity and in your alignment in your own space. When there's a blockage in the flow. Okay, so perfect. The word clutter actually derives from the same word in Middle English as the word clot, which I love. And it also comes from a similar root word as clatter, which is what I was saying that, it's energetic noise. So both of those things are there in clutter. It's a blockage in the flow and it is energetic noise.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. I love talking to you today. This has been so
Oh,
much fun. And
thank
it's a
you.
conversation. So it helps my women who are listening, my men who are listening to understand that connections are the key.
Mhm,
And what
mhm,
we have surrounding us is the fluff that makes us who we are.
mhm.
And it helps people see who we are so that they can relate to us and we can
Mhm.
see who they are and how we can best relate to them. And I
Yes.
think it's wonderful. It was a wonderful conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye today?
I don't think so, except, if anybody wants to work with me one on one, I'm happy to do that. And
All right.
I love,
We'll
I
put your
love, love, love.
picture
Yeah.
on the Facebook group page, the Aspie Bridge. And what they
Okay.
can do is you can put any contact information under your picture
Mhm.
as soon as I put it up there and let them. And if they have any questions for you, they can go right under your picture and ask you the question there. I tend to go away from having people put comments on the podcast on YouTube itself because I think it's harder to find. But if they can talk directly to you, because I have so many guests that come on that offer so much wisdom that if they
Yeah.
can go right to your picture, they can connect with you directly there on the
Excellent.
Aspie Bridge Facebook group page. I'd love to have
Excellent.
you all come.
Yeah.
And for now, thank you, Jessica, for being my guest this week.
Thank you, Suzanne.
And I hope you'll all come back next week to see what is planned for next week. Have a great day, everybody.